Welcome to Fika's Focus. Voices leading change.
Kia ora, Lauren.
Hey, Ray.
On today's Fill the Gap, where we are getting out there and supporting the sector, we're just having a yarn about biting.
Yeah, difficult topic, but yes.
Yes. So just quickly, we really want to normalise the fact that biting is a typical behaviour that we see in every single early learning centre. It is certainly something. Do you want to just give some insight into that sort of stage and age bracket?
Yep. So biting is common across all early childhood services. I don't think I've ever been in one where biting hasn't been addressed. Most centres have a policy around that because it is so common. Typically happens 2 to 3 year olds, can be slightly under 2, can be slightly over 3, but typically that 2-year-old age of them trying to learn to communicate verbally, self-regulate on their own, which is difficult. Can happen in over 3s and again in under 2s is again communication. Over 3s is communication and self-regulation, but also the ability to work socially with others. Because they often get close in each other's spaces, right? And if 3.5-year-olds aren't into that, then a quick reaction is to bite.
And it's important to understand that it is a method of communication. Stay away. You know, you've got something that I want and you haven't given it back to me.
Yep. You've said something I don't like.
Yes, those sorts of things.
It can also be positive though. Some children get excited and that's a quick reaction. You know,
I won't name him, but you know, I remember a particular child and when he was a baby, he's now nearly 5 actually, but when he was a baby and I used to go and hang out with him, he would bite me in excitement and he would bite me on my shoulder. On my shoulder. He would always bite my shoulder, but he was just excited. I think that's important to say. So in terms of a mode of communication, are we saying there that because there's a lack of language, that's why they would default to that in terms of stay away or help or you know, whatever? Yep,
absolutely. Again, for 2-year-olds, they're learning how to play with others, right? They go from playing on their own to playing alongside to then playing with. And that 2-year-old is that phase between playing alongside and then playing with. Right, so they're trying to figure out the social expectations around play, and a lot of them don't have the verbal languages to say stop. You know, I don't like that, or I want that. You know, so they're communicating by actually you've frustrated me, so I'm going to bite you. You know,
so that's really important. So you said playing alone, playing alongside, then playing with. So playing alongside, in that instance, so you have a toy, I have a toy. We're still sitting next to each other, but not really playing with each other. We're in there, and then all of a sudden there becomes a mutual interest, and they're like, "Oh, you've got the same toy, and you've got a car, and I have a car. Or we can drive together. We can play. We can crash it together. Oh, you're going to run over my finger. Now I'm playing alongside, and actually I'm not a fan of that. So my mode of communication is bite." Yes. Yes. So in that sense,
look, biting is as common as hitting, pushing, kicking.
Yes.
It is a reaction to whatever is happening in front of them.
Yes.
Or how they're feeling.
And I think it's important to also realise and understand that if we look at it as a mode of communication, the way we can help them through social coaching is to actually verbalise to them, hey, you've bitten that child, look how they feel, they don't, you know, they're crying, they're upset, that's not what we want to do, that's what we do to support the person who has been bitten. But we also need to social coach the child with some language by saying things like, stop, I don't like it, could you please move away, or something along those lines, right?
But then stepping in as well after it's all happened if both children are still playing alongside, because often 2-year-olds will, especially if they've found a child that they connect with, they will often revert back to that same child every single time, regardless of whether they've been bitten, hit, kicked. That they're trying to develop a friendship, right?
They don't realise that. Yes, they don't actually realise that. They're just okay. Look, cool. Let's go back and play with the cars.
Which I think that's also a really difficult aspect for parents, because as an adult, you're like, oh, they've done something I don't like. I'm just not going to be around them. But children don't have that ability. They're like, nah, that child plays with what I like to play with. That child has fun with me. We enjoy each other's company. You know. So that's really hard. But I think it's also important in that space to then support and communicate for the child that can't. Oh, I saw you snatch so-and-so's car. Did you want a turn? Oh, you need to ask. And whether that's asking verbally, can I have a turn after you? Whether they've got the language or whether that's simply putting their hand out. And then you're communicating for the child. You know, they've got the action, but you've got the verbal language to ask so-and-so, can he have this car after you? He's waiting.
And also support if the child says, no, I still want to play with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you need to wait.
Yeah.
Do you want to wait or do you want to find something else? And when they've finished, they'll come find you. So it's supporting them in that space of these are your two choices and your two options. What is it that you want?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then in that space also around biting, because you talked about it typically being in that 2 to 3 bracket.
Yeah.
We're coming out of being a baby or in that
under two
space where we don't tend to see a lot of it. The change is cognitively there's a cognitive change, right? That is entirely new to them. Are we saying that?
Yeah.
So it's entirely new. It's like, okay, I'm now part of a pack, a group.
Yeah.
So now so we're now trying to figure out where I stand in that pack and how do I get on with people.
Yeah. So it goes from that playing alone, which is typically the under 2 space.
Yes.
And if you go into an under 2 space, that's what you see, right? You see lots of little people playing on their own.
Self-directing themselves.
Yes, and they're doing their own thing. There may be other children in the space. Whether they're aware of that or not, that's up to the individual child. You never know. But when they get to that 2-year-old stage, they go into the over 2 space. They're often with children that are 2.5, 2 and 8 months, 2 and 9 months, 2 and 10 months.
Yes.
Quite a difference as you get closer to 3, right? Yes. They're coming out of a space where they've played by themselves or sometimes alongside others, and they're going into a space where children are already playing with others.
Yes.
So they're at that higher end of the phase, if that makes sense.
So cognitively, I think it's important to point out that from 2 to 2 years, 10 months, that is a drastic jump.
Yes.
Like that's a third of their life.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, well, look, I think it's such an important topic. It happens in every single early learning centre in the world, probably, in every culture. But it is a normal thing. We're not saying it's something we just accept because we work in to support families and children in that space. But I also know that for parents that go through it, and like I've brought up before, my oldest son, Cortez, was the biter. It's not a nice experience as a parent having to constantly sign things and that. So
but also knowing that your child is harming other children, that's hard for a parent to wrap their head around.
Yeah, that certainly is. So I think it's just growing some understanding in that space around that. So, look, I think it's a nice little snippet on it in terms of what is a real common behaviour. So thank you for that, Lauren.
Thanks.